Hey, hey, Girl Scouts! This is Katie from Cincinnati, Ohio. While we're waiting to get started here, I hope everybody is having a wonderful Tuesday morning. It's a little bit chilly over here in Cincinnati. We're hopefully getting some better weather later this week. But looks like people are jumping on, so I see a couple of you on there. Welcome. All right, so while we are waiting for others to join, why don't you drop in the comments, tell us who you are and where you're watching from, and then also tell us if there's an app that you use to solve a problem. So I have a ton of apps on my phone here and also on my computer as well, but I use them for all different kinds of things. So I use an app to track how much exercise I'm doing. And I also use it for maps to help me get from one place to another. There's an app for that. So tell us what kind of apps you guys use to help solve problems, because today we are going to go over the Daisy app development badge, which is part of the Coding for Good badge series. So it looks like we've got a couple people on so far. Awesome. Hi. So let us know. I'm trying to think of some other apps that I use while we're waiting to get started. One thing that I don't even really think of as an app, but it is an app, is text messages. Those are a really great way to keep in communication with people. Sometimes we're really busy and we don't want to pick up the phone and call someone, and we just have something really quick to say. So a text message is a really great way of communicating through an app. All right, so it looks like Jocelyn from Little Egg Harbor. Oh, that's a great name. I love that. She is from Troop 50070. Welcome, Jocelyn. Let us know if there's a cool app that you like to use. And it looks like we've got YouTube is one. That's awesome. YouTube is great because you can watch videos, and there's so many different things that you can do with videos online. It can show you how to do something. You can learn a new song. There's so much you can do with an app. So awesome. All right. Clara from New York, welcome, loves Pokemon Go. Okay, so that is an example of a game application, which is great. We use apps for entertainment all the time, and also Messenger Kids. That's great. So sounds like there is a type of app out there made just for kids to send messages to each other. So that is awesome. And I'm not familiar with that, so I'll have to learn about that app. So it looks like we've got quite a few of you on here today. So let's get started. I'm really excited to go over this app. App development badge. Sorry, it's early. Okay, so to earn the Daisy app development badge, we are going to do 3 steps for this badge. So 1 is to decompose a problem into smaller steps. 2 is to design an app to solve your problem. And then 3 is to share your app with others and then improve the design. All right, looks like we've got Dahlia from Columbia, South Carolina, and she likes Minecraft. That's cool. That's something I've always wanted to learn more about. I'm seeing a lot of Messenger Kids. There's an app called Seesaw for schoolwork. Awesome. Man, since I've been in school, there have been so many developments with different apps. I'm sure that you guys, especially now, are using apps all the time to make education accessible while we're all at home. So that's awesome. Apps are really part of our everyday life. So it's one of those common words that you probably hear all the time, but what does it actually mean? So an app is short for a longer word called application, which basically means it's a program that runs on either a computer, a tablet, or a smartphone. I'm sure that there are other devices out there that use apps as well. And if you have one of those devices, let us know in the comments. I'm always excited to learn something new because you guys know a lot about technology too. So we can all learn from each other. So some apps are fun. I heard people say that they like to use YouTube, play games on their phones or on their computer. So we use that for entertainment. That's definitely one way that life can be a little easier by entertaining ourselves on our phone. So that's one way. They can, of course, be educational. I heard you guys saying that you're using apps for schoolwork. And they can also be helpful. But really the main reason that we use apps and that they're creative, that they're created for helping us solve problems. So, one example I have of an app that really has solved a big problem for a lot of people is maps. So navigation apps are amazing because back in the day before we had computers and phones in our cars, we actually had to use a map to figure out how to get from point A to point B. And if you've ever tried to read a map while driving, don't do it. It's just as bad as texting and driving. It keeps your eyes off the road. That's really hard. So you would need a passenger in the car to help you if you were going on a long trip, or you'd have to kind of memorize the route beforehand. Sounds really difficult, doesn't it? But now we have apps on our phones that can talk to us while we're driving, so we don't even have to look at our phones. The app knows that we are on Main Street and need to turn left on 7th Street. It's amazing. Apps are so cool, and they really do help us solve a lot of problems. Okay, so now that we've kind of learned a little bit about what apps are and just got a bit more background information, we are going to go dive into step one. So step one is decomposing our problem into some smaller steps. So I'm going to use a real life example here rather than one on a computer, and then we are going to for step two, we're going to take that problem and put it in the setting of what could be an app. So I want to make some chocolate chip cookies today. I don't know if you guys have been baking a lot lately, but I have been baking nonstop. Been making a lot of banana bread, things like that. And when I find a recipe, I find a lot of them online, but today I've got a recipe that I just found on the back of my chocolate chip bag. So I'm gonna show you how I decompose that into smaller steps. And actually a lot of it's already been done for me, but it's a good process to look at here. So, all right, we're in my kitchen and I wanna make these cookies. So I've got my recipe on the back of this bag of chocolate chips. And I'm looking at this cookie. This cookie looks really good. I want that right now. However, if I just look at this cookie, I've got to figure out how, this is a problem. This is something that I need to figure out. How do I get from all the stuff in my kitchen to this? So I've got this recipe on the back here, and it tells me how much of everything I need. And it tells me that the first thing I need to do is gather all of my ingredients. So I've got my baking soda, I've got my salt, I've got my sugar, I've got some tools also that go along with the ingredients. And these are tools that kind of help solve a problem too without a computer. So I need to make sure I have exactly the right amount of every ingredient, which my recipe tells me. And, I've got all my ingredients ready here. And then the next step is to preheat my oven. So I want to make sure that I do that. And then I actually, need to make sure that I mix all of these in the right way too. So I'm going to follow the steps that are on this recipe. And if you can see kind of behind me here, I've got a mixer way back in the corner. And that's another tool that was made before computers to help us solve a problem where, people want to mix things. And it's really tiring to just kind of do this continuous loop of mixing. So this makes our lives easier too. So there's tons of ways that scientists and inventors have solved problems without computers to help let us cook a lot easier. So that's kind of where I'm starting with these cookies here today, but I'm not going to make them right now. I'm not going to do that on this video because that would take a long time. But I just wanted to get you guys started so you can kind of see the context for how to decompose a problem into smaller steps. But really the problem I'm having is not how to make this recipe, it's how to keep track of my recipes. Because I've got actually here, it's behind my computer here. I've got this whole handy dandy recipe box, right? And this is something my mom gave me to store all of my recipes in. Basically, if I find a recipe I like, I write it down. Sometimes that can take a while. Sometimes I don't read all of it right and I miss a step. Or I forget an ingredient and then I can't find the website where I found it on. It's nice to have this like right in front of you. And it's nice to have something you can look at while you're cooking, and not have to go back to your phone. So, there's advantages and disadvantages. But I want to be able to figure out a way, that, I've always had my phone on me. How can I keep track of my recipes on the phone, so or on my computer, and make it easier for me to cook so that I don't have to keep looking back at this or at my recipe cards, things like that. So we've kind of talked a little bit about decomposing a problem into a smaller step, and I'm sure that you guys have recipes maybe that you make all the time that maybe you don't have a set recipe for, but that's a really good way to earn this step of the badge. Is think about the things that you and your family make that maybe you don't have a recipe written down for. I know when I was learning how to cook, I kind of had to write things down. Okay, well, to make salad, I've got to do this. So maybe talk to your parents about something that they don't have a recipe for, that you could kind of follow them around the kitchen to learn how to make something and decompose that problem so that they can just go right back to that recipe so they don't forget a step, because if you don't have a recipe, you'll probably forget a step. I do that all the time. So, all right, we're going back. So that is step one. We're going back here. So now that we have kind of decomposed one of our problems into a smaller step, step two is to design your very own app that will help solve this problem in maybe a different way. So, what app developers do all the time when they're creating a new app is they make something called a storyboard. And a storyboard is just kind of like a vision board of what you think the app will look like. So when you're on a computer or on your phone and you're looking at an app, there's actually a lot of design and thinking that goes into developing this. So it's not something that they just thought of one day and just magically created. It was actually a lot of people and a lot of testing that go into the creation of an app. So we're going to kind of put our thinking caps on this morning, and we are going to get really creative and create our own apps. So if you guys are at home doing this activity, I would absolutely love to hear what you guys create. And please share it with us. But I'm going to show you something that I thought would make cooking and baking a little bit easier for me. So I've got, here we go. So it's a little hard to see because it's kind of backwards. All right, adjusting to the camera here. Okay, so I've got Katie's cooking app. So on this side, there we go. Okay, I'm learning. It's all backwards for me. So, okay, so I've got Katie's cooking app, and this side right here is what you would see on the very first screen when you open up the app. So I drew the title. Now, if I wanted to get really creative, I'd probably put some pictures in there, maybe a picture of my favorite recipe, so that like it catches your eye and people, when they open the app, they get excited about cooking. That's something you can do to be really creative. All right. So then I put some buttons in there. Now, if you're on a computer, some computers have touch screens just like phones do nowadays, but some you have to use a mouse. So we're just going to pretend that this is all on your phone because that's probably what I'm going to be using when I'm looking for recipes online. So I've got a touch screen and pretending that this is my screen, I can click on each of these buttons here. And I'll tell you what each of those mean, and we're just going to go throughout my storyboard, and I'll show you my app. And actually, you guys can help me by telling me ways that you think it could be improved, because you know what, when you're making an app, it might make sense to you, like it makes sense to me the way that I design my app, but maybe when you're looking at it, you think, that doesn't really make sense, or it could be better this way. So please tell me what you guys think. Okay, so the first button is to scan a recipe. So this would be something if you found a paper recipe. So like in my mom's box that she gave me that has all of our family recipes, if I wanted to store that on my phone in case for some reason I lose the paper copy, I can scan this into my phone so that I have an extra backup, which is a really nice thing that apps and computers can do for us. So that's one option. Another option is to search for recipes. So now this one would be where you can search the internet for recipes. So say you found a recipe for free online that you wanted to make and you want to make it again, which happens to me all the time. I find something really good that I like online and then I forget to save it. And then I think, oh man, I really want to go back to that recipe, but I forgot to write it down or save it. So in my new app, I can save, search and save recipes that I find on the internet. Okay, so this third option here is my recipes. So this is all the ones that you have saved. So it gives you the option to save all the recipes that you've either scanned or ones that you've found online. All right, it looks like someone's says her mom and her company made an app at work. That's awesome. I love to hear that. That's really cool. I bet it's an awesome app. All right, so the next screen we've got here, so on this side, is the scan recipe app. So what we're gonna do here is this gives you an option to take the photo, like I said, and then I created some buttons to where you can go back to the home screen if you decided maybe you accidentally clicked on that and that's not what you want to do, or it gives you the option to take a photo of that recipe. All right, so that is page 1. All right, so I'll move on to page 2 here. So this is just a continuation of the storyboard. So then we have, so say you clicked the search recipe option. So you could search the internet for different recipes, and I just made up a few here. So A for apple pie, B for butternut squash enchiladas, which is my favorite recipe ever. It's really good. Dump cake, chocolate chip cookies, of course, because that's what I'm making later today. All right, so that is what I would do for searching recipes online. And I forgot to put a back to the home screen button. So as you can see, it's really important that we like review and look at these storyboards before we actually create an app, because I'm sure you guys will find things that I didn't even find on here. And we got to improve them, right? So, okay, next, this next page here, my recipes are ones that I have saved from my recipe cards, anything that I found on paper. So of course I've got mom's lasagna, very important family recipe, ginger chicken, which if you watched my Facebook Live a few weeks ago, I showed you guys how to make that for the Cadet New Cuisines badge. And then grandma's secret banana bread recipe, which is also a secret family recipe, but probably not so secret because I shared it with a few people. So, all right, so then for the final page of my storyboard, this is what it'll look like when you open up a recipe. So when you click on one of those recipes, I clicked on chocolate chip cookies here. So these are two separate screens. So this one is different than the top one. So it shows you step 1, gather ingredients. And then there's a button here that I would put for going back to the ingredients. So if you don't know all the ingredients you need, then you would go back to this button, and then it would tell you what you need, and then you go back to gathering your ingredients. And then the next one is when you're ready to move on to the next step. Then it would display that step on your screen. So if we pretend that we've clicked the next button, then we can go down to step 2, which is to preheat the oven. And then you keep clicking next until you're done with your recipe. So that's just a really basic idea of a storyboard for an app. And as you can see, there are a million things that we can do with this app, and we have just kind of started on creating Katie's cooking app. So that's a really basic idea, and I am so excited to hear and see what you guys all create, because I'm sure you'll come up with something really, really creative. And it looks like we've got a couple of comments. So you would list your app by ingredients. Jenna, that's great. That's a really great idea. So one thing I just thought of too is, I've got 8 million different things in my kitchen here. And if I wanted to just have a recipe with certain ingredients, maybe I could search recipes by ingredient. That would be cool too. So there's so many different things that you can do. All right, so list it by desserts and dinner. Rachel, that's a great idea. So, and actually that is exactly how my recipe box, if I can find it, keeps hiding behind my computer here. That is exactly how the kind of physical version of my recipe app looks. So I've got dividers in here that show breads and appetizers, things like that. So you can kind of see this is like the physical version, and then we created the digital version. So, all right, Jenna, so looks like you said you think that you would do it by ingredients, because if you had chicken, then you could search chicken recipes, or if you wanted something with chocolate chips, you could search all the chocolate chip recipes. This is great. So you guys are doing great. And this is exactly what app developers do to improve their apps. They have people test them, and because everybody's going to come up with different ideas for how an app could be improved. And honestly, that's actually the most important part of app development, is finding ways to make them more user-friendly and easier for people to use. So, and that is step 3 of the badge. So when you create your app and your storyboard with your design, you will then share it with your family and your friends, and see if they can go through your app and find what ways that it could be improved, maybe things that you didn't think of, and so that is step 3 of the app, the badge, and so that pretty much wraps up what we had for you today. So just to recap, we completed steps 1 and 2 of the Daisy app development badge, which is part of the Coding for Good series. So step 1 is to decompose a problem into smaller steps. Step 2 is to create a storyboard and design an app that helps you solve a problem. And step 3, which you'll do when you create that storyboard, is to share with family and friends and improve your app's design. So those are the 3 steps, and I hope you all have enjoyed watching this today. If you are not a Girl Scout and you're interested in finding a troop near you, you can go to girlscouts.org/join to get placed in a troop in your community. And then also at 2 p.m. we have another Facebook Live event coming up. Lauren Beatty will be doing part 2 of the Brownie Pets badge at 2 p.m. So we look forward to seeing you all then. And thanks again for watching, and peace out, Girl Scouts.